Hi, Lions. It's so good to see you again. I have been waiting all day to get to our Read Aloud with Wonder. Remember, we are trying to read to identify what we think might be the theme or themes of the novel Wonder, and then also what we think the author's purpose is for writing. We're keeping notes in our reading journals to help us document any text evidence that we come across. And I just want to show you the text evidence that we added yesterday. Here we go. That's better. Yesterday, because we thought that we have an idea of what the author's purpose for writing this novel was. Remember, we said that we think the author's purpose could be for us to learn a message or to instruct us and teach a lesson. That lesson might be to treat each other's hearts carefully, make sure nobody ever feels alone or unworthy. When we were reading yesterday, we came across this was evidence we shared last time, but we came across three more pieces of evidence in the text that makes us believe that this could possibly be the author's purpose for writing. On page 72, this is what I wrote. I paraphrased what happened, and here I wrote that Tristan rushed to wash his hands after Augie accidentally touched him, and that made Augie really sad. Remember, they were in science class, and when they were cleaning up some of the materials, Augie accidentally bumped into Tristan. The other piece of evidence we collected yesterday, on page 73, Augie said he wished people could wear masks so that we aren't judged by our appearances. All these go back to treating each other's hearts carefully so that people don't feel alone and unworthy. And then the last piece of evidence that we came across, it was one of the final chapters we read, and that was on pages 77 through 80. And that's when Augie overheard Jack talking about him, and it made him literally and figuratively sick. And so all three of those could be evidence that the purpose of this story could be to teach us a lesson and about valuing people's hearts and treating each other's hearts carefully. Okay, let's go ahead and continue reading. Now, if you remember, yesterday we said we would begin today with part 2, and part 2 is via all of whereas part 1, let me go back and show you what it said for part 1. Part 1 was August. So we had heard the story through Augie's point of view for the first part. Now we're in part 2. Okay. A tour of the galaxy. That is the chapter. August is the sun. Me and Mom and Dad are planets orbiting the sun. The rest of our family and friends are asteroids and comets floating around the planets orbiting around the sun. The only celestial body that doesn't orbit August, the sun, is Daisy the dog. And that's only because to her little doggy eyes, August's face doesn't look very different from any other human's face. To Daisy, all our faces look alike, as flat and pale as the moon. I'm used to the way the universe works, this universe. I've never minded it because it's all I've ever known. I've always understood that August is special and has special needs. If I was playing too loudly and he was trying to take a nap, I knew I would have to play something else because he needed his rest after some procedure or other that had left him weak and in pain. If I wanted Mom and Dad to watch me play soccer, I knew that 9 out of 10 times they'd miss it because they were busy shuttling August to speech therapy or physical therapy or a new specialist or surgery. Mom and Dad would always say I was the most understanding little girl in the world. I don't know about that, just that I understand there was no point in complaining. I've seen August after his surgeries, his little face bandaged up and swollen, his tiny body full of IVs and tubes to keep him alive. After you've seen someone else going through that, it feels kind of crazy to complain over not getting the toy you had asked for or Mom missing a school play. I knew this even when I was 6 years old. No one ever told it to me. I just knew it. So I've gotten used to not complaining, and I've gotten used to not bothering mom and dad with little stuff. I've gotten used to figuring things out on my own, how to put toys together, how to organize my life so I don't miss friends' birthday parties, how to stay on top of my schoolwork so I never fall behind in class. I've never asked for help with my homework, never needed reminding to finish a project or study for a test. If I was having trouble with a subject in school, I'd go home and study it until I figured it out on my own. I taught myself how to convert fractions into decimal points by going online. I've done every school project pretty much by myself. When mom or dad ask me how things are going in school, I've always said good, even when it hasn't always been so good. My worst day, worst fall, worst headache, worst bruise, worst cramp, worst mean thing anyone can say has always been nothing compared to what August has gone through. This isn't mean being noble, by the way. It's just the way I know it is. And this is the way it's always been for me, for the little universe of us. But this year, there seems to be a shift in the cosmos. The galaxy is changing. Planets are falling out of alignment. I want to pause for a minute because something really interesting has happened. There's been a shift now in this novel. So, and it all has to do with point of view. So I want to show this to you. Let me move this over so you can see it a little better. So far in this story, we had only heard from Augie's point of view, okay? But now in part 2, the section that says via, our point of view is shifting. I want to take a minute and really focus on this for a minute and explain this a little more, because when you understand point of view, it can help you figure out what the author's purpose might be for writing. Okay, so let's look at point of view a little bit closer for a minute. So, point of view. So we know we have the author. Okay, so the author is the person who wrote the story. So in the book Wonder, RJ, and I think you say Palacio, she is the author. Here, I'll show you a picture of RJ. Okay, so she's the author. And so every story obviously has an author. Now, the author then creates a narrator. A narrator is the one who's telling the story, okay? So it's different than an author. The author's the one who actually wrote the story. The narrator is the person telling the story. There's different kinds of narrators. And when you understand the type of narrator, it can help you understand the purpose that the author decided to write the story. Okay? So there's something called first person narrator. And let me show you some examples of first person narrator. So when you have a first person, when it's written in first person, okay, then you're going to see a lot of words like I, we, us, I'm, my, our. The narrator is actually a character in the story. Okay, so for example, these pages we just read within the first sentence, okay, me, so me could be listed here. In fact, let me add that. There we go. So me and mom are dad are planets orbiting the sun. The rest of our family and friends are asteroids and comets. Okay, we go on a little bit more, and it says, I'm used to the way the universe works. And I've is another derivative of the word I, and it's I knew. If I wanted, I knew. I don't know about that. Just that I understood. So you hear I. So the narrator right now in this section is Via. She is a character in the book. Now, what's really cool, what this author did, is a lot of times authors will keep the narrator the same throughout the book. But the whole first section we read, the narrator was Augie. So it was written in first person, but from Augie's point of view. Now we're shifting to hear from Via's point of view. So that is a really cool technique that this author used. Let me go back to, I'm going back to part 1, or, section 1. And this is where it said August. And he's saying, I know I'm not an ordinary 10-year-old boy. I mean, sure, I do many things. I eat ice cream. So you see how both section 1 was first person, okay, written, the narrator was first person. It was Augie. And now that we're in section 2, it is still first person, but it's shifted, and now it's being written from Via's point of view. Okay, so both times though, the narrators were characters in the book. There's something called second person. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it because most fiction is not written in second person. That's usually nonfiction. That's where someone's just telling you something, or you are actually in the story. Some examples of that would be, like the You Choose series where you pick the ending. But most stories aren't written that way, at least most fiction. And then there's something called third person, and that's where the narrator is still someone telling the story, but they're not in the story. They're not an actual character. They're just telling us the story. Okay. When you have third person, you see a lot of he, she, they, their. You never hear them say I or my or ours. Okay. So I wanted to take a minute because I just thought it was a really cool development in our novel, because we know the narrator is written in first person, but the really spectacular thing and kind of literary technique the author used is the first person is changing. Section 1 was written from Augie's perspective or point of view, and then now in section 2 it's being written from Via's point of view. So the narrator is written in first person. So we'll continue talking about that. But I thought that was a really clever technique the author used to share about the story. So let's keep reading. Okay, Before August, the next chapter. I honestly don't remember my life before August came into it. I look at pictures of me as a baby, and I see Mom and Dad smiling so happily holding me. I can't believe how much younger they looked back then. Dad was this hipster dude, and Mom was this cute Brazilian fashionista. There's one shot of me at my 3rd birthday. Dad's right behind me while Mom's holding the cake with 3 lit candles. And in back of us are Tata and Papa, Grands, Uncle Ben, Aunt Kate, and Uncle Poe. Everyone's looking at me, and I'm looking at the cake. You can see in that picture how I was really the first child, first grandchild, first niece. I don't remember what it felt like, of course, but I can see it plain as can be, as in the pictures. I don't remember the day they brought August home from the hospital. I don't remember what I said or did or felt when I saw him for the first time, though everyone has a story about it. Apparently, I just looked at him for a long time without saying anything at all. And then finally I said, "It doesn't look like Lily." That was the name of a doll Grands had given me when Mom was pregnant, so I could practice being a sister. It was one of those dolls that are incredibly lifelike, and I carried it everywhere for months, changing its diaper, feeding it. I'm told I even made a baby sling for it. The story goes that after my initial reaction to August, it only took a few minutes, according to Grands, or a few days, according to Mom, before I was all over him, kissing him, cuddling him, baby talking to him. After that, I never so much as touched or mentioned Lily ever again. Seeing August. I never used to see August the way other people saw him. I knew he didn't look exactly normal, but I really didn't understand why strangers seemed so shocked when they saw him. Horrified, sickened, scared. There are so many words I can use to describe the looks on people's faces. And for a long time, I didn't get it. I just get mad. Mad when they stared, mad when they looked away. What the heck are you looking at? I'd say to people, even grown ups. Then, when I was about 11, I went to stay with Grands in Montauk for 4 weeks while August was having his big jaw surgery. This was the longest I'd ever been away from home. And I have to say, it was so amazing to suddenly be free of all that stuff that made me so mad. No one stared at Grands and me when we went to town to buy groceries. No one pointed at us. No one even noticed us. Grands was one of those grandmothers who do everything with her grandkids. She'd run into the ocean if I asked her to, even if she had nice clothes on. She would let me play with her makeup and didn't mind if I used it on her face to practice my face painting skills. She'd take me for ice cream, even if we hadn't eaten dinner yet. She'd draw chalk horses on the sidewalk in front of her house. One night, while we were walking back from town, I told her that I wished I could live with her forever. I was so happy there. I think it might have been the best time in my life. I hope you all have someone like Grands in your life. I certainly have people like that, and I had a grandmother like that I just love spending time with. I hope that you guys have someone like that too. Coming home after 4 weeks felt very strange at first. I remember very vividly stepping through the door and seeing August running over to welcome me home. And for this tiny fraction of a moment, I saw him not the way I've always seen him, but the way other people see him. It was only a flash, an instant while he was hugging me, so happy that I was home. But it surprised me because I'd never seen him like that before. And I've never felt what I was feeling before either. A feeling I hated myself for having the moment I had it. But as he was kissing me with all his heart, all I could see was the drool coming down his chin. And suddenly, there I was, like all those people who would stare or look away, horrified, sickened, scared. Thankfully, that only lasted for a second. The moment I heard August laugh, his raspy little laugh, it was over. Everything was back the way it had been before, but it had opened a door for me, a little peephole. And on the other side of the peephole, there were two Augusts, the one I saw blindly and the one other people saw. I think the only person in the world I could have told any of this to was Grands, but I didn't. It was too hard to explain over the phone. I thought maybe when she came for Thanksgiving, I'd tell her what I felt. But just 2 months after I stayed with her in Montauk, my beautiful Grands died. It was so completely out of the blue. Apparently, she had checked herself into the hospital because she'd been feeling nauseous. Mom and I drove out to see her, but it's a 3-hour drive from where we live. And by the time we got to the hospital, Grands was gone. A heart attack, they told us. Just like that. It's so strange how one day you can be on this earth and the next day not. Where did she go? Will I ever see her again? Or is that a fairy tale? You see movies and TV shows where people receive horrible news in hospitals. But for us, with all our many trips to the hospital with August, there had always been good outcomes. What I remember the most from that day Grands died is Mom literally crumpling to the floor in slow, heaving sobs, holding her stomach like someone had just punched her. I've never ever seen Mom like that. Never heard sounds like that come out of her. Even through all of August's surgeries, Mom always put on a brave face. On my last day in Montauk, Grands and I had watched the sunset on the beach. We had taken a blanket to sit on, but it had gotten chilly. So we wrapped it around us and cuddled and talked until there wasn't even a sliver of sun left over the ocean. And then Grandis told me she had a secret to tell me. She loved me more than anyone else in the world. Even August? I asked. She smiled and stroked my hair like she was thinking about what to say. I love Augie very, very much, she said softly. I can still remember her Portuguese accent, the way she rolled her R's. But he has many angels out looking for him already, Via. And I want you to know that you have me looking out for you. Okay, Menina querida? I want you to know that you are number one for me. You are my. She looked out at the ocean and spread her hands out like she was trying to smooth out the waves. You are my everything. You understand me, Via? Tu es mio todo. I may have pronounced that wrong. I understood her, and I knew why she said it was a secret. Grandmothers aren't supposed to have favorites. Everyone knows that. But after she died, I held on to that secret and let it cover me like a blanket. This part just makes me think, Via's talked about how you can be here and then just like that, not. And one thing I love about what Grans had done for Via, she shared with her exactly how she felt about her. So I encourage you, let people know how much you appreciate them, how much you love them. August through the peephole. His eyes are about an inch below where they should be on his face, almost to halfway down his cheeks. They slant downward to an extreme angle, almost like diagonal slits that someone cut into his face, and the left one is noticeably lower than the right one. The bulge outward because his eye cavities are too shallow to accommodate them. The top eyelids are always halfway closed, like he's on the verge of sleeping. The lower eyelids sag so much they almost look like a piece of invisible string is pulling them downward. You can see the red part on the inside, like they're almost inside out. He doesn't have eyebrows or eyelashes. His nose is disproportionately big for his face and kind of fleshy. His head is pinched in on the sides where the ears should be, like someone used giant pliers and crushed the middle part of his face. He doesn't have cheekbones. There are deep creases running down both sides of his nose to his mouth, which gives him a waxy appearance. Sometimes people assume he's been burned in a fire. His features look like they've been melted, like the drippings on the side of a candle. Several surgeries to correct his lip have left a few scars around his mouth. The most noticeable one is a big jagged gash running across the middle of his upper lip to his nose. His upper teeth are small and splay out. He has a severe overbite and an extremely undersized jawbone. He has a very small chin. When he was very little, before a piece of his hip bone was surgically implanted into his lower jaw, he really had no chin at all. His tongue would just hang out of his mouth with nothing underneath it to block it. Thankfully, it's better now. He can eat, at least. When he was younger, he had a feeding tube, and he can talk, and he's learned to keep his tongue inside his mouth, though that took him several years to master. He's also learned to control the drool that used to run down his neck. These are considered miracles. When he was a baby, the doctors didn't think he'd live. He can hear, too. Most kids born with these types of birth defects have problems with their middle ears, and it prevents them from hearing. But so far, August can hear well enough through his tiny, cauliflower-shaped ears. The doctors think that eventually he'll need to wear hearing aids, though. August hates the thought of this. He thinks the hearing aids will get noticed too much. I don't tell him that the hearing aids would be the least of his problems, of course, because I'm sure he knows this. Then again, I'm not really sure what August knows or doesn't know, what he understands and doesn't understand. Does August see how other people see him? Or has he gotten so good at pretending not to see that it doesn't bother him? Or does it bother him? When he looks in the mirror, does he see the Augie mom and dad see? Or does he see the Augie everyone else sees? Or is there another August he sees? Someone in his dreams, perhaps the mishap, the misshapen head and face. Sometimes when I looked at Gran's, I could see the pretty girl she used to be underneath the wrinkles. I could see the girl inside the old lady. Does August see himself as he might have looked without that single gene that caused the catastrophe of his face? I wish I could ask him this stuff. I wish he would tell me how he feels. He used to be easier to read before the surgeries. You knew that when his eyes squinted, he was happy. When his mouth went straight, he was being mischievous. When his cheeks trembled, he was about to cry. He looks better now, no doubt about that. But the signs we used to gauge his moods are all gone. There are new ones, of course. Mom and Dad can read every single one, but I'm having trouble keeping up. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to keep trying. Why can't he just say what he's feeling like everyone else? He doesn't have a trach tube in his mouth anymore that keeps him from talking. His jaw's not wired shut. He's 10 years old. He can use his words. But we circle around him like he's still the baby he used to be. We change plans, go to plan B, interrupt conversations, go back on promises depending on his moods, his whims, his needs. That was fine when he was little, but he needs to grow up now. We need to let him, help him, make him grow up. Here's what I think. We've all spent too much time trying to make August think he's normal, that he actually thinks he is normal. And the problem is he's not. Wow. So hearing this from Via's point of view really helps you kind of understand how this is impacting the whole family. If we would have just continued hearing from Augie's point of view, then we wouldn't know how Via was feeling about everything. Sounds like she's really struggling too. All right, guys, we'll keep reading Wonder. The next chapter is called High School. Remember, it's Via's first year in high school, so I think we're going to hear a lot about how she's adapting to her new school as well. I hope you meet me back here tomorrow so we can hear another chapter of Wonder. This really is a wonderful book. We've got some great themes that we think are emerging, such as kindness, perseverance, family, friendship. We think the author's purpose possibly is to instruct us, to teach us a lesson, and particularly to treat each other's hearts carefully so that no one ever feels alone or unworthy. All right, Lions, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you right back here for some more exciting chapters of Wonder. Bye, Lions. Syllable types and spell syllable types, because it's going to help us be automatic readers and spellers. And then when we learn the meaning of different syllables, it helps us with the vocabulary and understanding what the story means. So far, we have learned 5 syllable types. There is one more syllable type we will be learning soon. All right, readers and Lions, I hope you have a great day, and I can't wait to see you right back here tomorrow.